Hey everybody, this is Ben from Lawyer's Guide to the Galaxy. I hope everybody is staying safe, following the quarantine rules, and staying healthy. Kirk and I did record some new content. We're trying out some new technology to record while he is quarantined and I am quarantined, so you may hear some network hiccups and potentially some keyboard typing here and there, other background noise. So we apologize for that, but it is sort of the new reality we're faced with for the time being. So we will hopefully be past this soon and back in our normal location. But in the meantime, we did want to try and get you some new content, something lighthearted to pass the time and, just try and maintain some semblance of normalcy. I think that's important to have in challenging times like this. So on that note, please enjoy the episode, be healthy, be safe, and we'll see you on the other side.
Welcome to A Lawyer's Guide to the Galaxy, a podcast about geek culture by lawyers with your hosts, Ben Siders and Kirk Damon.
And welcome back to A Lawyer's Guide to the Galaxy, the podcast that asks interesting questions that don't have any answers, with your host, Ben Siders, that's me, and the other guy is, as always, Kirk Damon.
That's Kirk, as in the captain of the Enterprise.
We are quarantined intellectual property lawyers in St. Louis, Missouri, struggling to cope with being locked in our houses with our families for the last week and for the foreseeable future. On that note, we thought we would do something a little different for this week's episode. We're going to try and keep things light. I think everybody could probably use a little levity and fun. And we thought we'd just talk a little bit about, I was going to suggest like our best like plague and zombie movies that we could go through, but that seemed a little too close to home.
Well, they said number one download on Amazon Prime, I think it is.
Yeah. So we thought rather than going that route, we'd instead talk about fun things we're doing to pass the time and to entertain our children while we're stuck at home. So we're not going to do a full hour-long episode today. We're probably going to do something maybe half of that, maybe less. I should also say, our regular studios are obviously all closed, and so Kirk and I are recording on a podcast remote recording app. So we're both sitting in front of our phones. He's at his house, I'm at my house, and we're trying to record. So
this is actually the first time we've ever done an episode where we're not in the same room. So this is going to be kind of weird.
Yeah, I'm staring at my Minecraft screensaver on my computer right now, and normally I can see Kirk, and we can not interrupt each other, although sometimes do that anyway. But so our quality may be off a little bit. We may get some network hiccups and some things like that. So we'll just, this is the new normal for the time being, and we'll just deal with it.
Exactly. Yeah. You're talking about Minecraft things. I'm staring here looking at a pile of Legos. So I get it.
Well, speaking of Minecraft, that's one of the things we're doing. I tried to set up a Minecraft server for our neighborhood, but it turns out that all the kids in the neighborhood that I was going to set it up for, they all play the Bedrock edition that's on Nintendo and Xbox and their tablets. And the version that we run here is Java, and they're not compatible. And I couldn't figure out a way to run a Bedrock server that they could play over the public internet. It's all LAN based. So that's out. But me and my kids are still playing on our Minecraft server. And they've actually, since I'm home more and I'm not commuting, it frees up about an hour and a half of my day now. We've been playing that, and I told each one of them that I would build them all a house of their choosing. So of course they've all chosen really, really difficult things to build.
Well, my kids we've been trying to keep them off of the tablets and the computers here as much as we can, mostly just so that it becomes an emergency backup when needed. Today was the day I finally gave in and let them play around. We're mostly dealing with the fact of trying to get the educational content from their schools, and then trying to figure out what is on it and what can we do with it. That's the biggest thing right now, in conjunction with one of their school programs won't run on one of their tablets. It's only run on the computer, which of course we need during the day when we're working.
Yep.
So yeah, it's proven to be a little bit crazy as to what it is. But yeah, they finally got to play around for about 3 hours today.
Well, that's nice. Yeah, so Anna's in middle school. My oldest of my young kids, she's in middle school, and they all get Chromebooks. So she's already got something that's already set up for school content. And then my youngest, Charlie, he's autistic, and he's also got a Chromebook as an educational aid. He actually does better typing than writing. So they've been doing pretty well, and our school is kind of scrambling to get new content out to the kids, and my wife's filling in with some other stuff too. And one other thing that's our neighborhood, I should say, they set up a Facebook group, and they do twice a day. They do kids reading to kids. So at 2:00 and 8:00, there's a scheduled reading where one of the kids in the neighborhood will pick a book, and then everybody connects to the Facebook Live session, and then the one kid reads the book to everybody else, and they're all going to kind of take turns doing that. So they just started that today, and it's been well received.
That's kind of cool. Yeah, we haven't seen anything particularly like that. We have our neighborhoods on next door, and there's been a bunch of stuff bouncing around on that, but it hasn't been so much electronically live. Ours has been a lot more live occurrences and things that are happening. So one of the ones they're doing in our neighborhood is a bear hunt. I don't know if you've encountered this in conjunction with your neighborhood.
We did a shamrock hunt last week, okay. I think. Yeah.
Yeah, so this one's everybody's. If you're interested in doing it, you put a teddy bear in your window, and people are trying to go around and locate all the teddy bears.
Oh, that's a good idea. I like that.
So yeah, kind of a neat one. It's based on going on a bear hunt.
Yep.
This is primarily for toddlers, because they like the book and stuff like that. So it's an interesting idea as to what it is. We haven't done it yet. I've been talking with the kids about doing it. We just haven't done it yet, but we probably will soon.
We've also getting them exercise is challenging too. One of the things my wife has done is she's starting something called the jumping jack challenge, where she just films the kids doing like 100 jumping jacks or until they can't do anymore. And then they tag a neighbor kid, and then they film themselves doing it and tag a neighbor kid. So she's trying to start this viral jumping jack challenge. A poor choice of words, I suppose. But
everybody wants to use the word viral right now.
Yeah, I bet that comes to an end. But it's our neighbors are all doing it. That's one she's done. The other thing she was doing, she did an Easter egg thing where she put we have the plastic Easter eggs that you can like split in half and put candy in them.
Yep.
She put all those in a box on one end of the basement, put the kids on the other end, and she's basically having them do like volleyball or basketball line drills where they sprint down, grab an egg, sprint back, put it together, sprint down, grab an egg, and race to see who can do 10. So that's right underneath my office. So I'm sitting here trying to get some work done, and I just hear kids like clomping and running around downstairs and crashing into things and stuff falling over. But everybody else I'm on calls with has the same thing going on. So it's heard more people's dogs in the last week.
Oh yeah, I mean, you get dogs, you get little kids in the background, you get sort of the crazy comments. It's amazing what's happening on conference calls right now, with video conferencing calls, and we've had even the kids are doing a lot of FaceTiming with their friends and stuff like that. It's randomly like, why is your brother there, and stuff like that coming across.
Yeah. My nephew FaceTimed me earlier to get advice on how to run his D&D campaign that they're all doing virtually now.
That's nice. Yeah, we've been doing a lot. We've been doing a lot of just basic board games. Our kids have not had so much of the issue with the getting outside. We've been trying to go outside. It's been a little chilly here. It's supposed to get nicer, here in the later half of this week, which everybody's looking forward to. But our kids are doing a lot of. They're both learning to roller skate, and so there's been a lot of roller skating around on the driveway.
Yeah, I guess we've had some neighborhood attempts at get-togethers, but I've got various medical complications. So I'm trying to avoid any risk of anything happening. So I'm keeping our kids pretty tightly quarantined just for that reason.
Yeah, I think most people, it seems like we have. I mean, I know on our block, you see people on the street. If you know them, you cross the other side of the street.
Yeah,
that's the weirdest thing right now. We've done a number of the takeout, the restaurant takeouts, brewery takeouts, and stuff like that, just to try to support some of the local businesses. And one of the weirdest things about it is you go in to pick up food, and it's you're standing 5 or 6 feet away from the counter, and then they put the food on the counter. Then you walk them to get it. It's a very weird feeling.
It's like everything's a cold drop, like in a spy movie or something.
Yeah. Except everybody still feels uncomfortable doing it. Like that's why you're doing it, and everybody understands that it's being done, but it still feels uncomfortable. But I feel like I want to apologize. Like, sorry, but you know what the rules are. Exactly. And I think that's the biggest concern. And it's, you definitely are hearing stories, I'm seeing them. I'm not seeing them directly here, but you're hearing the stories about the people who are not, obeying it, that are sort of running around and things like that. And, that's the kind of, I think the biggest worry is it's, you get the potential person who doesn't seem to want to obey it. And, the idea of the new normal. We had one where we have a elder couple down the block from us, and their caregiver came in, as their in stay-at-home nurse. It was very much I'm just going to stay back here.
Yep.
It was like, okay, they just wanted to know. They found something in their yard and just wanted to find out if we knew what it was or anything like that. But yeah, it's a very weird scenario. I think, is what it is. And that's where, everybody's talking about, you can't avoid it on the news right now. I think there is a lot of trying to be lighthearted, even as we're trying to do a little bit in this podcast, just sort of talking about our stuff. But, we're doing it a lot with watching, what are we watching for kids content? We joke about it because one of the things we did is we went and raided the library before it closed.
Oh, it's a good idea.
Because none of the books are due until the library opens.
No late fees, force majeure.
Exactly. Well, actually, they actually, for the most part, waived fees at the library anyway. But it's one of those where it was like, yeah, just grab whatever you want. I mean, there were so many people at the library doing exactly that, leaving with these just piles of books and piles of movies. We've purposely been trying to watch, a lot of like lighthearted movies, trying to avoid watching too much news or anything along those lines. Yep. And the big thing we've really noticed in conjunction with the movie, so we actually watched like a Lego Batman movie today.
Oh, that's good. I like that one.
It was one of those where it's great. It's, what it was, but it was one of those where it talks about, the whole thing starts with, Batman alone in his mansion. And it was sort of like, wait, this is seeming a little too real.
Well, I suggested to Mackenzie, it's my wife, maybe we should finish watching all the movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but it ends with Endgame where half the planet's been killed. I'm like, what? Also, it's a little too close to home, maybe.
It's hard to watch movies because it's, disaster scenarios are one of those things that are popular in movies. The one we've had, because it's, we've done a family trip. We were at in Orlando just before this whole thing came down, and we realized there were a bunch of, like cultural reference movies our kid didn't know. We had them watch E.T. before we went out there. So they'd finally seen that. But we realized there were a bunch they didn't know. And now that we're back, we're like, we need to watch one of those. And one of them that, amusingly enough, was that they wanted to go on is they went on the Kong Island ride for King Kong. And so we've been contemplating a little bit about Japanese monster movies. And like, I own the original Godzilla.
I've seen it.
And that's one of those where I'm like, I think we're going to have to have the kids because, it's so not scary. It's so obviously a rubber dinosaur and things like that. But we were like, that might be a good movie to get just because it's, like, well, it's a giant rubber dinosaur destroy Tokyo and, be a little lighthearted that way.
Hey, that reminds me, it would not be a Lawyer's Guide to the Galaxy podcast if we didn't talk Star Wars. Do you want to give like your 2-minute review of Rise of the Resistance?
So we went on, like I said, we were at Disney in conjunction with it. We went on pretty much all the Star Wars rides, went to Galaxy's Edge, and checked it out. So
that's the new Star Wars only themed land, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Galaxy's Edge is the Star Wars only themed land. Galaxy's Edge is an experience. So we also had not seen Pandora, which was another movie we actually had the kids do, is watch Avatar. Mm-hmm. Which I have to admit, having watched that movie again, reminded me quite how much I loved that movie. I still do. I really love Avatar.
Yeah, we watched it too a couple weeks ago, and I remember when I first watched it, I was like, it was good. I wasn't as blown away by it as everybody else seemed to be. But watching it again later with the passage of time, I really did enjoy seeing it again.
Yeah, I was absolutely blown away when I saw it, but I saw it in full HD 3D, giant screen, stuff like that. And, we watched it this time, we watched it in 2D, but it's the comment with it is just how beautiful of a movie it is. Yeah. And that was the thing that we really commented about. And, going and seeing Pandora at Disney was amazing. Unfortunately, we were only able to stay there until just after dusk. We had to run to make dinner reservations, but at least we got to see it light up and things like that. Not quite totally, but, close. And it's, Pandora was amazing. That was our first day there, and we loved it. And then the next day we went, we tried to get, we'd purposely done some stuff to get into Disney. We had early breakfast plans to get in there. So we got into Disney. They have dramatically improved their, from what I've heard from the prior things, the way you get on Rise of the Resistance. But we were able to get Rise of the Resistance tickets. For those of you guys who don't know, Rise of the Resistance is Disney's sort of huge Star Wars themed ride in conjunction with Galaxy's Edge. To get into it at 8:00, you have to essentially get in the Disney app and try to get a seat. And by 8:01, all the seats are gone.
It's a lottery, basically, right?
Yeah, it's a lottery. It's a sort of, get in and get it fast. So we were there 2 mornings. We were at Hollywood Studios, which is where it is. 2 mornings. We got in once and didn't the other day. But the first day we were there, we did get in. We got boarding pass. It was 42. Anything under 47 is guaranteed to get on it. Basically, they always make it through about 80 anyway. It used to be guaranteed through 80, but it wasn't anymore apparently. They sometimes make it through as much as 120, depending on sort of how long the ride takes. But so we got into 42.
Is it fair to call it a ride, Ethan?
It is a ride. It is an utter experience. So, it was one of those things like we had no idea what it was going into it. You can see plenty of stuff online. Like I'd watched some of the videos people had taken because people have phones out when they do it. And actually part of the gag is that you're essentially captured as rebel spies. And of course the actors who are, you're working with, who are also helping to gear the stuff in conjunction with the rides, are repeatedly making jokes about your data pads. With people have their phones out, recording everything going on and stuff along those lines. So, there's plenty of recordings you can get. The recordings do not do it justice. They really don't. I'd seen some of the recordings. I'd seen professional recordings where they'd shown some of the stuff. I'd watched the Imagineering story, which talked about from Disney, which talked about how they'd made a lot of the ride. It doesn't do the ride justice. The ride is utterly amazing is just what it is. Knowing how it works from having seen like the Imagineering story made it all the more impressive.
Really?
Just because it's a free moving car. It doesn't follow a track. It actually runs. And so one of the key things in it is there's like a big scene, the famous scene in conjunction with you're underneath the big AT-ATs. You'll see it. It's the image that everybody's used to. And you get shot at by stormtroopers. There are 4 cars in the room. When you get shot at, the 4 cars scatter all over the place. They hide in different places, and then they come back together again. And that's part of what made the ride so neat, is the fact that like you were going everywhere. You had no idea where you're going. You had no idea where the other cars were going to go. And it was part of just sort of seeing what was going on and even seeing the other people in conjunction with the ride. But yeah, it was an utterly amazing experience. It's apparently about 15 minutes to take the ride. Did not feel that long at all. It is a long ride. I would actually say it's effectively 3 rides in one. There's essentially an intro ride, and then there's a second session, which is essentially a sorting section for the second ride. But, you're working with a lot of actors, and I don't use the term actor lightly. I mean, these were ride operators, but they were definitely behaving much more like they were, in persona, in character, in conjunction with, they were all Imperial officers.
That's something Disney's historically done at the park, and they seem to be getting more and more into.
Yeah, and they did a great job with it. They did not break character, even though they were purposely trying to make things at times funny. I joke about it. So it's one of the ones is they kept trying to say like, we'll interrogate you as to where the rebel base is, because that's one of the reasons you've been captured. And I really wanted one of them to come up to me, and I was going to go, Dantooine, they're on Dantooine, just to see if I could get a reaction.
They're not going to fall for that again.
But it was one of those where it was but that
you should be like, yeah. Can I interest you in Hoth? I hear it's lovely this time of year.
Well, one of the ones they actually came up with, they said, what system are you from, for the woman next to me? And she's like, Texas. And they're doing this whole thing with, what's the Texas system? What's the Texas system? And he finally calls over his superior officer, and he's like, have you ever heard of the Texas system? The superior officer looks at him totally straight face and is like, Texas system sounds like a horrible place. It was one of those where it's just, they did a great job staying in character. It was just really, really cool as an experience. It's also just an amazing ride. You feel like you are in Star Wars. You're technically on board a Star Destroyer. That's basically what the primary thing behind it is. And you're trying to escape from a Star Destroyer. And you really feel like you're in the Star Wars universe. Like you see characters, they seem real, things like that. The first time when you first arrive on the Star Destroyer, you're caught and you first arrive on the Star Destroyer is, and I'm not going to tell you about it just because it's people want to look at it. You can look at it online, but stepping out the door essentially into the ride. And everybody in the entire thing was awestruck. We're like, this is just amazing. What you saw in conjunction with that. And it was so amazing to see. But yeah, so we really enjoyed that. We did also do the Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run, which is also a very cool ride. We didn't think it was nearly as cool.
Yeah.
In conjunction with it, just because of the thing. I also just generally love Galaxy's Edge. I like the idea of wandering around Galaxy's Edge. One of the things they do is they have a Disney Play app. And one of the key things you can do is you can scan the crates around it and find out what's in them and steal stuff, which is kind of a, sort of unique. It's a way to waste time, basically, when you're in lines and stuff like that. But it's kind of a fun thing to do in conjunction with it. But yeah, they really tried to make you feel like you're in Star Wars, and you really do. You're walking around there and it really feels like you're in Star Wars, even though everybody around you's in standard, Disney matching t-shirts. It really is kind of an amazing, it really was kind of an amazing thing. And what struck me was how much it even felt more like a world than even Pandora, which was designed to be a world. Yeah. And really, again, kind of struck me as to what it was. Although I have to admit, our kids' favorite ride was actually the Avatar ride. They loved the flight, the Banshee flight. I can't remember what it's called, First Flight or something along those lines. That was actually by far their favorite ride. I think of any of the parks.
Is that the one where you get in the seat and it rolls you up and there's a big screen in front of you and it kind of tilts you back and forth and you feel like you're flying on something?
Yeah, so it's that same ride system. It's what used to be Soarin'.
Yeah, I've been on Soarin'.
It's the existing, so it's the exact same ride system as Soarin', but it's supposed to be you're flying on a Banshee and you fly over Avatar. But the launch system's different. You don't actually see yourself go up. You mount on these, connection things for the Banshee. When you're in them, it's just a single row, and then the screen drops down in front of you. So I think they're either already vertically mounted or they pull them up when they pull the screens up. I don't know exactly how they do it, but you're already engaged, and you have 3D glasses on for that one as well,
Yep.
which is a little bit different. And there's a lot more, smoke effects and strong light effects and things which deceive you as to what's going on with the actual ride machine. But yeah, it's an amazing ride. It was an amazing ride to do. Really fun ride. I think they took Soarin', which was a great ride when we went the prior time we got to Disney. Soarin' had just opened. And we got to on that. I thought it was a great ride at the time. We went on Soarin' again a couple days later, and I was like, the Flight of the Banshee takes this to a whole nother level. Like, it's clearly the same type of ride, but it just takes it to a whole nother level.
That's terrific. Yes, I haven't been there in 6 or 7 years. None of that stuff was there the last time I went. So we're looking forward to someday when we can leave the house again, going back down.
Yeah. But we did that, and then we went to Universal and also did Harry Potter World, which is one of the things we don't talk about a lot on this show.
Yeah, we probably should.
Harry Potter. And my daughter got very, very seriously into Harry Potter. She's read all the books. We've seen all the movies, and things like that. So she wanted to go to Harry Potter World. And the thing I had with Harry Potter World, if you know it, it's the half of Harry Potter World is at each of the 2 Universal Studios. There's 2 different Universal Studios parks, Universal Studios Florida and Islands of Adventure. And the Diagon Alley, so the sort of London portion of Harry Potter, is in Universal Studios Florida. And the Hogsmeade, which is the small town surrounding the Hogwarts Academy, is in Islands of Adventure. And there's a train that connects them. You actually take the Hogwarts Express between them. There's a little bit of a sort of controversy because you have to do a more expensive park pass to take the train because you connect between them. So you have to have a pass for both parks in order to do it. But what I tell you about it is I absolutely loved Hogsmeade. It was probably my favorite place to be, even over Galaxy's Edge, just because you truly felt like you were in the Harry Potter universe, and it was a kind of magical place. It was, in the way Harry Potter is kind of a kid's magical place. It's kind of and it was one of those things, like, as I was there, I was even trying to put sort of a lot of times into words what it is. It's the sort of forbidden things of being a kid, and I think that's part of what makes Harry Potter in some sense so popular. Everything's a candy shop. And stuff like that. It's like kids kind of rule the roost and everything along those lines. The other thing they do is they do interactive wands. So you can buy wands, you can go to Gringotts and get wands. Both our kids got wands. And you can do magic at various points where you actually walk up and they have sensors and you move the wand in a particular pattern and something happens.
That's cool.
And, it's one of those where of course you see 100 kids do it before you do it, but it's still really cool to see and going and finding these places. But then there's, just going into the stores and the shops. And again, it's incredibly well themed. Like, that's the thing you really get. Diagon Alley is literally, there's like some of the forward facing London buildings of Harry Potter. Like, there's King's Cross Station and there's the safe house, as well as the night bus, which is outside. And you kind of go around these corners, and the way I best describe them is it's the corners that you're used to in airport bathrooms. So you have the corner you go around that you can't see around, and it feels like you go through a wall and suddenly you're in Diagon Alley. And when you're in Diagon Alley, that's all you see is Harry Potter world. And it's the same is true of Hogsmeade in many respects. Hogsmeade's a little more connected. It's right next to the train's on one side of it. I don't remember where that actually leads if you walk into it. I don't think we ever went out that way. But the other side, it's actually Jurassic World. And so it's that sort of nicely hides it, actually, because there's a lot of just trees and stuff like that off in that direction. But, we really enjoyed it. The other thing we were quite frankly stunned about is the food in the Universal Studios was quite good. We ate.
Was it better than Disney?
It wasn't better than Disney. I have yet to encounter any theme park that matches Disney for food, or his food is nearly as good. And so, stuff like that. But yeah, it's one of those where I think you get, it was definitely solid and definitely fun. So we really enjoyed it. Definitely enjoyed the trip. We're glad we were able to do it. Sort of look forward to going back sometime.
Awesome. So anything else we want to cover and talk about? How about board games? You guys playing any board games?
We've gotten a few. Unfortunately, we haven't had a chance to get a lot of them started. We played a few sort of known ones. But we haven't really done any the new games. We've got a bunch of new ones. We just haven't had a chance to play them yet. A lot of it's we're still trying to figure out routines, and I guess with 2 of us who work, and we're both on computers at various different times and trying to keep the kids busy for all of that. A lot of it's like we've already altered bedtimes. We're doing a lot of things like that. We're also quite frankly, because I enjoy it, my wife enjoys it as well. We're cooking quite a bit. So I tell you about, we're going out, we're getting takeout from, food and beer places and stuff like that. But we've also done quite a bit of cooking. And like I did yesterday where I was like, I'm going to make 6 things that take half an hour because who cares?
Yeah. Why not?
I got the time. And so, we've been doing just a lot of that kind of stuff. So we haven't had as much of sort of the game thing as we've talked about. I have, as for those of you who know, I paint Warhammer 40,000. I play Warhammer 30,000 quite a bit. And my daughter's actually acquired an interest in painting the models. So she's actually been doing some of that in the evenings.
Oh, excellent.
So she's surprisingly good at it, actually.
Well, we've been playing a couple of games. The tricky part is, so my Anna, the oldest, is 12 now, and then Charlie, the youngest, is 6, and Charlie's a little 7 now. He's a little too young to play, and he's also autistic, so hard for him to play a lot of these games. But for my middle 3 kids are all 27 months apart from oldest to youngest, so they're all kind of in that prime age where they're able to play more complicated board games. And the couple we've been playing lately, one is called Code Names. Have you heard of that one?
I haven't heard of it.
It's pretty cool. Basically, you have 2 teams of 2. So my wife and I each play with 2 of the kids on one team and 1 kid on the other. You put down a 5x5 grid of code names on the table, and then each one of the teams has a spy master who knows which one of those code names is a spy for your team, which one is a spy for the other team, and which ones are like bystanders or an assassin. And then you have to say one word that tells your field operative, who's the other person on your team, which one to pick. So like one of the things may be like Berlin. So I would say Germany, and then my teammate would know Berlin is one of ours. But what makes it challenging is you can also tell them how many cards you think match that word. So if you have, like mountain and hill, you might say, land or terrain or something like that. And then you tell them 2, so they know there's 2 cards to check. And it really gets challenging because, you want to, whoever gets all their spies found first wins. So it's kind of fun to find a way to like look at the board, and you have to also say a word that's not going to accidentally lead them to pick one of your opponent's cards. So it's a really fun game. It's deceptively simple, but my kids have really enjoyed it, and we've been playing that. And then today we got a new game called Skull, Skull, which is a very simple game. I don't even know how to explain it because, like, when I tried to explain the rules to them and even to my wife, they just stared at me blankly. All I can say is it's basically a psychological warfare game with your family, where you're putting little discs down. It's all themed on like Mexican Day of the Dead. So you're putting all these discs down that have one of them has a skull and one does not, and you put them face down, and you kind of go around the table and put these discs down, and then at some point someone calls a challenge, and you have to guess how many you can flip back over without revealing a skull. Okay. And once you get to play the game, you'll kind of see how the strategy evolves. Like you can place your own skull down and then try and trick people into taking a challenge and flipping over yours. So it's got a lot of like bluffing and a lot of also like card counting and math elements. It's like a very simplified version of poker where it's not really about winning a hand. It's just about outsmarting the people you're playing with. It's again, deceptively simple, very fun. We opened it up today and my kids played probably 20 games of it, and you can wrap up a game in like 20 minutes. It does not take long to play at all. So Skull, that's cool. Really, really fun.
Yeah, we have one that's sort of similar to that, actually, made by a little tiny game development company, I think out of Ohio. We bumped into them at a fair. I think it's Bearded Brothers Games. Mm-hmm. The game's called Maybe It's Poison. And the idea behind it is you need, the more players, the better. It's anywhere from, you basically need a minimum of about 2 to 3. Works pretty well with 4. You always have, I think it's minimum of 5 to 6 places set. But basically you sit teacups around their coasters, and all but one of them is poisonous. Mm-hmm. And the idea is you can at any time call cheers, and everybody has to drink the cup in front of them. And the idea is that the cup in front of you is not poisoned. But you have a handful of cards, and the cards tell you how to move the cups. You can look at certain cups at certain times, but the cards are all very random. So there's a lot of things where like the cards will be swap hands with your opponent, or play a cards from your opponent's deck or from your opponent's hand. Shuffle all of the teacups, move the teacups around in random ways, things like that. So the idea is you have to first figure out which teacup isn't poisoned, and then you have to figure out a way to get it in front of you without everybody figuring out where it is and why you're trying to get it in front of you, because they know which cups you've looked at. So, if you have like one sitting, 2 away and you keep trying to move one clearly towards you, that implies that, hey, that's the one that they should look at. And since everybody looks at one every turn, you very quickly discover like you have to know it. Once everybody sort of knows where it is, you want one of the cards that makes it random and gets rid of it so that people can't find it again. And things like that. But yeah, we had one like that. The biggest game we've been playing a lot of recently is one that my son loves. We played. It's a great game called Sleeping Queens, which is it's just a basic, simple card game. The cards are very funny, which is part of it. But it's basically like you're trying to awaken queens. They have both a point and an actual number of queens and a point value associated with each of them. Whoever can awaken the most of them. But, when you awaken them, there's a way to awaken them, which is playing a king. If you can also steal your opponents by playing a knight, which can be countered by playing a dragon, because the knight would rather go fight the dragon, or you can send theirs back to sleep by saving the sleeping potion, but it can be countered by a magic wand. The thing that's cool about it is when you get the cards that are sort of worthless are numbers. And the way you get rid of them is you can discard any one card. You can discard any cards that are the same. So like if you have 3 9s, you can discard the 3 9s. You can also discard any cards which are in addition or subtraction. So you can discard a 1, 2, and 3 because 1 + 2 = 3, which we have now done with our kids, that it's any mathematics. Oh. So they're allowed to use multiplication or anything else.
Square roots.
Just it was, yeah. And so, sort of stuff like that. But that's a game that they've been thoroughly addicted to. And then we just discovered the only one we played that's kind of new is called, I think it's a Genius Square. I'm trying to look at the box in conjunction with it. The best way to describe it, it's a puzzle game. You have essentially Tetris blocks. You roll a bunch of dice and it puts blocking things on your square. And then you have to fill the square with your Tetris blocks before your opponent does the same. And so it's a really kind of fun game. It's a neat puzzle game. You can play it individually on yourself just against a timer, or you can play it against 2 players. I really enjoyed playing it. I was having a lot of fun playing it with the kids, and they were having fun playing it. And, as they said, some of the combinations are easy. Some of them are hard. At least one of them has the way the dice are set up. It's mathematically set up that every single puzzle has at least one solution. Some have multiple solutions. We actually reached the point of it was whoever got it first, then the other, we've all worked together. So the second person got a different solution. Oh. And the question was, how different could we make it? But yeah, I'd recommend those as to what we had. So those are some of the ones. I mean, I'm looking at, we got a stack of games over here we haven't played yet, which are all new ones. So we'll see how those all work out in the course of the
we've got some to try as well that haven't cracked open yet. We did play Pandemic last week, just for giggles, but nobody wants to play it now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's the problem with Pandemic as a game, is it's very, very easy to lose. Yeah, we have one or two. Same idea. It's a cooperative game called Forbidden Island, where you have to escape an island that's sinking into the water. So yeah, we got this. We're going to play that one here shortly.
Well, if anybody out there has suggestions for board games or other activities, feel free to tweet them at us or email them to us. And I'm guessing we're probably going to have more podcasts like this before we get back to a regular schedule. So we'll go through those things, and maybe next time we'll also go through some of the listener mail that we have been neglecting for literally years, but. But we not intentionally just discovered this problem a couple weeks ago, but we've been busy since then, so I haven't had a chance to get back to it. Well,
the other thing definitely is, if you are listening to the podcast, feel free to jump on, talk with us on social media, send us questions, send us stuff you want us to talk about. I know, people are using a lot of electronic platforms just as some form of communication to look for people. That's part of the reason we're putting this content out. We know it's not going to be our normal stuff and things like that, but just if, you guys are used to listening to us, you like listening to us, it'll give you something to listen to.
To get some content out there that's a little lighthearted and not super heavy, even though I keep going back and mentioning all the zombie.
How can you not?
It's kind of hard to avoid. I mean,
there are a lot of memes discussing what people are going to look like when this is over.
Yeah, going back to my point about exercise, stay safe, stay healthy out there, obey the quarantine rules, and I hope everybody is taking care of themselves.
For anybody who thinks they shouldn't obey the quarantine rules, get Pandemic and play it. And you'll understand why you need to.
We actually, Kirk and I both know somebody who did have the coronavirus and got through it, and I talked to him today. He described it as awful and said, wouldn't wish it on anybody. So be safe out there, and I don't have my call sheet in front of me, so we'll read this out more informally than usual. Any last thoughts, Kirk?
I think we're good. I think we'll check with you guys in a week and see where we're going.
All right. Stay safe out there, everybody, and we'll see you next.
The views expressed by the participants of this program are their own and do not represent the views of, nor are they endorsed by Lewis Rice LLC, its officers, directors, employees, agents, representatives, shareholders, and subsidiaries. None of the content should be considered legal advice. As always, consult a lawyer. This podcast was produced and recorded in St. Louis, Missouri.